Hey everybody, welcome. Come on in. We are just about to get started. But first, I want to know what is something that makes you feel alive? Like a food or a drink or, something fun. Like, I know that, we could all give the church answer, but let's think of something different. Like, okay, for me, it's Starbucks, okay? I get a venti coffee and I add a shot of espresso, and it is awesome. I love it. It makes the coffee like darker and richer. It's fantastic. I love it. So, what's something that makes you feel alive? Like when you have it, you just are loving life. Like, what is something that either maybe you eat or you drink and it's just amazing, all right? Put your answer in the comments. I want to see what some of you have to say. And then as we all pile in here, we will get started. All right. I have got some awesome stuff for you guys. I am so excited for you to see it. I have about 30 slides we're going to go through. And believe me, this is going to be anything but boring. All right. There are some surprises in these slides. There's some really funny pictures. I make reference to, well, you'll just have to wait and see, okay? I promise. This is not going to be your typical boring PowerPoint, all right? So we're going to get started in just a second, but while people are joining, I'm going to wait just another minute, and then we will get started, all right? I'll see you in a second. I'm back. Okay, so I'm eating a little bit of food as we get started here. I don't know if you guys have Costco where you are, but there's this amazing sauce. It's got kind of a, well, weird name. It's called bitchin' sauce. I didn't name it, just found it at the store. It's that like paste looking stuff, and it's awesome. I'm eating it on pretzels. It's delicious. Okay, so let's get started because I don't want to waste your guys' time, and I have a lot of great stuff to cover, and I don't want you to miss it. All right? So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about how to grab kids' attention and keep it. Because I run a site called betterbibleteachers.com. It's that right there. And I'll take a poll sometimes of people and I'll say, what's your biggest hurdle? What's your biggest struggle when you're teaching Sunday school or when you're leading a group of Sunday schoolers? What is the biggest problem you have to overcome? And I can't tell you how many times I get people tell me things like, I just can't get the kids to pay attention. Or I try to make the lesson interesting, but they just won't sit still. Or the boys, they just will not sit down. Or I have to tell the story of, David and Goliath, but it's hard. Okay? I get it. I've been there. I've done that. I know exactly. And in fact, right off the top here, I want to share with you a story because you know what? I'm just like you. I'm a Sunday school teacher. I might not look it, but I'm 34 and I've been teaching Sunday school for 15 years. That sounds like a long time because it is. It's kind of crazy. But what happened was actually I first met a 4-year-old when me and my wife were dating. I was obviously 19 at the time. And I got to playing with them, and I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I'm like, you know what? I need to volunteer at church and find something, and no one wants to hear me sing. So I'm like, what could I do to help out? So I was playing on the floor with some of their kids, some of the friends' kids that we were hanging out with, and I asked what I did was I literally walked into the Sunday school building the next week, and I said, hey, I'd like to volunteer. And any of you who work in a Sunday school environment, if you have people come in and say, hey, I think I'd like to volunteer, I mean, you're jumping for joy, right? So they put me in a 4-year-old class because that's kind of what I wanted. I mean, I knew I didn't want to do like, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds. I'm not really into changing diapers. I'd like for the kids be able to manage themselves a little bit. So I started volunteering with 4-year-olds, and it was awesome. I loved it. And so 15 years later, I've actually moved up to 1st through 5th grade, and that's now what my curriculum is at Better Bible Teachers. And I love it. The kids are a little more able to handle some more interesting elements of the story. They're able to think a little bit more. You know, a 4-year-old, you have to keep it pretty linear, you know, like fact, 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 the end. You know, especially with like 2nd graders, 3rd graders, 4th graders, and certainly 5th graders, you can add some real interest and nuance, and you can help them think. And I remember one Sunday I was teaching on Moses crossing the Red Sea, and I got done, and a kid comes up to me, and he was like epic churchgoer. Like he's been at Sunday school, you know, every week of his entire life. He's like, I've never knew some of that stuff. I've never heard the story like that before. And that was one instance. I remember exactly where he sat in the room. I remember exactly exactly how it happened. And it was at that moment I didn't think like, oh, I found a secret. I said, you know what? I've been doing this long enough. I grew up in Sunday school, and I've been teaching long enough that I think I've, you know, figured out some things that grab kids' attention, and, you know, even though they've heard the story before, they're okay to hear it again, and in fact, they love it. So let me share some of the techniques, some of the tactics that I figured out, and I'd love to know your comments. So if you have questions, put them in the chat. There's a chat below here. Or you can email me. So let's get through some of the PowerPoint, and we'll go through this. So first of all, this is obviously how to grab kids' attention and keep it. Let's see here. Come on. Computer froze. There we go. My name is Nathan, and my site is betterbibleteachers.com, and that is my son. Where am I? That is my son, Nolan. He is now 6 years old. He's awesome. I also have a wife, but you know how that is. She doesn't always want her picture. So that's me. So let's go over a couple things that you're going to learn here today. So first of all, we are going to talk about why any teacher can keep kids' attention. All right? You don't have to be an actor. You don't have to be an amazing, you know, seasoned teacher. You don't have to be an amazing public speaker. Anybody can do this. Number 2, we're going to talk about SNL, so Saturday Night Live. We're going to look at one example of what they do and how that can help us keep kids' attention. And then number 3, one of my favorites, shock value. All right, we're going to look at shock value Sunday school style and see how that may help us, again, become better Bible teachers. So let's take a look. Quick note, don't leave early, because there will be a special bonus at the end for those who stay. So if you hang around for the whole thing, there will be a special surprise at the end. All right? So the first technique I want to talk to you is about your voice. Okay? So if you can talk, then this applies to you. So when it comes to your voice, most people think that if they're talking audibly, that they're teaching and that they're engaging. The problem is most of us teach and we don't think about how we sound, not the resonance of our voice, not, you know, how high or how low we speak, but we don't think about how interesting it is to hear us just talk. Like if you closed your eyes and just heard yourself talk, would how you're speaking be interesting enough to hold an audience? 2 examples of that. Number 1, pace is very, very important. All right, the speed at which you teach a lesson. So if you're teaching and the whole time you're teaching like this and you're talking and then Moses did this and they went to the Red Sea and there was Red Sea and there was water, all the Israelites were like, oh no, what are we going to do? And Moses says, don't worry, we'll figure this out. And then they see Pharaoh coming down the mountainside and they're getting ready to cross the Red Sea. If you keep the same pace the whole story, you're going to be really, really hard to listen to. So 2 things to keep in mind. Number 1, talk fast. That creates excitement. So as the anticipation is building, you're talking faster and faster. And then when you get to that moment in the story, slow down. Speak a little bit more deliberately. Speak a little bit slower. You see how that feels, even just saying it? But instead of just doing random examples, let me show you. Let's take a look at a script for my Elijah curriculum. So this is straight, I just took a screenshot of a section of the lesson script, and I want to show you what I mean. So what I've done is I've highlighted here some examples, and I want to read this to you. So first of all, let's read it, or maybe you can read it out loud. Read it just as if you are reading a book to yourself. So imagine if someone walked into the room right now and said he knew LeBron James or the president or the guy who invented the fidget spinner. You would have so many questions, right? That guy would be the most popular guy in the room. So you would think that someone who had a direct line to God would certainly be super popular, right? Elijah told them that it wasn't going to rain. Okay, that wasn't very interesting, right? But now let's read it as if you're thinking about the pace and the speed of your voice. Imagine if someone walked into the room right now and said he knew LeBron James or the president or the guy who invented the fidget spinner. You would have so many questions, right? That guy would be the most popular guy in the room. So you would think that someone who had a direct line to God would certainly be super popular, right? And then we move in. Let's go ahead and read the next paragraph so it makes sense. Well, you'd be a little bit wrong, okay? Maybe you'd be a lot wrong. Because you see, what God had to say, it wasn't very popular. The people didn't want to hear what God had to say, and so they didn't want to hear what Elijah had to say either. In fact, what Elijah had to say was something so big and so awful that he was immediately hated. Do you know what he had to say? Elijah told them it wasn't going to rain. You see how that feels? That's a totally different story. Even if you knew where I was going, you were looking at the text with me, you could see exactly what I was saying. That felt dramatically different. And it was, we talk about Elijah announcing that it's not going to rain. Don't say, Elijah told them it wasn't going to rain. Talk deliberately and slowly, like you are walking up to someone to deliver some bad news. It's not going to rain. Okay? Again, you don't have to be an amazing actor. You just have to slow your voice down. It's not that difficult. But if you do it strategically, it is really, really easy to keep kids engaged. Now, remember I said at the beginning we were going to talk about SNL? Well, I want to show you an example from SNL on another super easy tactic. Do any of you guys remember this? Remember that? I am unable to control the pitch or volume of my voice. So he talked really, really loud, right? He would just yell. All right? So that's really funny, right? But that's the idea I want to talk about for a second. If you control the pace of your voice or the speed at which you're talking and the volume, you can say some pretty boring things and still be rather interesting to listen to. Because again, this is all about, it's as if you are a radio personality and you're talking to an audience who can't see you, they can only hear you. The degree to which you're interesting in that scenario will dramatically increase your odds of keeping kids in your class's attention. Because if your voice is interesting to listen to, you will hold their attention. So when I talk about volume, let's go back to the same script and look at it again. All right. So this time we're going to read it not only with pace, but also we're going to change the volume at which we're speaking. So we're going to be a little bit louder, then a little bit quieter. I kind of started to do that when I read it with pace, but let's read it again, and let's read it thinking about the volume at which we're talking. Ready? Imagine if someone walked into the room right now and said he knew LeBron James or the president or the guy who invented, the fidget spinner. You would have so many questions, right? that guy would be the most popular guy in the room. So you would think that someone who had a direct line to God would certainly be super popular, right? Well, you'd be a little bit wrong. Okay, maybe you'd be more than a little bit wrong. Because you see what God had to say? It wasn't very popular. The people didn't want to hear what God had to say, and so they didn't want to hear what Elijah had to say either. In fact, what Elijah had to say was something so big and so awful that he was immediately hated. You want to know what he said? Elijah told them it wasn't going to rain. Do you see what I did? What, am I an amazing actor? No. All I did was read this with pace, with a varying degree of speed, and with changes in volume. And that would be very interesting to listen to, whether you could see me or whether you couldn't see me. And that's all you have to do. And by the way, I'm not talking about sitting there like, imagine if someone walked in, don't sit there and read the script. You can use your own words. I provide a script here so that teachers can get their ideas together and they can know exactly how they want to say it, so I can give them tons of ideas. But I hope that they take this and they use their own words to convey the idea of this script. This is there as a resource for them, but I don't expect any teacher to sit there and like read a script to their classroom. I mean, oh, that'd be rough, right? But as you're talking and you change the speed and pace of your voice, just as you naturally talk, that will make you dramatically more interesting. Hey, bub.
So also...
Hold on 1 second.
Actually, Daddy...
Okay. I'm back. All right, so we've talked about pace, we've talked about volume, and now we're going to talk about... Ready for it? You need to change your body language, all right? You need to get up and, like Taylor Swift would say, shake it off, right? Let's get physical. This is something I think a lot of people, a lot of teachers are not doing that they desperately should be, because this will make you so much more interesting. All right, so let's go back to the story of Elijah, and we're going to stick with the same character of the Bible. We're just going to talk about a different story in his life. So you remember when Elijah went to the widow at Zarephath? And he walks up to her and he asks her for food. And it would have been obvious just to him in that situation that she was likely a widow because she was out gathering sticks for herself. And Elijah ends up asking her for food. And you all know the story. Eventually she has faith and she makes food for Elijah, and she has enough for her and her son to continue living, even when it didn't look like that would be the case. Well, here's the deal. When you tell this story, a lot of the kids that you're teaching are already going to know it. They're going to know exactly what happened, but especially by the time they get to, 3rd grade, 4th grade. These kids have heard like 90% of the stories you're going to tell, so you have to think of something else to keep them interested. Just the facts of the story are not going to be enough. And if you don't do something maybe a little bit physical, here's my quote of the day for you. Kids don't like to sit still. All right? I know this is a revolutionary idea you've never thought of before. But kids do not like sitting still. So if you're telling them a story they already know, if you're changing up the pace, the speed, and the volume of your voice, the other tactic you can weave in is activity. Because again, kids don't like to sit still. So there are some times where they need to, right? We have to train them. But there are other times where can we take a little effort of our own and make something interesting so they don't have to sit still. So let's go back to the story of Elijah and the widow of Zarephath, and let me show you exactly how to make this lesson a little more active. All right? So what you're going to need is you're going to need a half-liter container, half a cup of heavy whipping cream, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. All right? Anybody know where we're going here? Anybody? We are going to make something. But this is going to get them active. All right? Anybody know where we're going here? Anybody? No? Here's what we're going to do. We are going to put all these together. We're going to close the lid on that half-liter jug. And we are going to pass it around the room. And for the next 10-15 minutes while you tell the story, talk about the lesson, talk about the application to their own life, they are going to shake it. All right? And what you're going to do is you're going to end up making butter. I know it sounds crazy, but Google it. This is all you need. And you shake that heavy whipping cream, and it'll get kind of sloshy, and then it'll look like it starts separating, but eventually it just all comes together, and you have this nice little ball of butter. That's all it takes. But how cool when you're talking about Elijah and you're talking about food, even though this story doesn't involve exactly butter, just having the kids listening while they're doing this, and they're passing it, and they're waiting for their turn, it's going to create a little bit of a distraction, right? But remember, sometimes kids that are waiting for their turn, they're also in the back of mind, they're listening. And I know it with my son, I know it from teaching Sunday school. Perfectly still children doesn't always mean they're paying attention. And on the other hand, children that are being active, sometimes that's the best way to talk to them. Because when you're physically engaged, sometimes your mind is more receptive to what's going on around you. All right? So this is a fantastic way to get physical when you're teaching the story of Elijah, okay? I mean, are we all looking like this cat, like, wow, this is fantastic. Like, I'm really happy I'm here. Are we excited to be here? Like, if you're excited to be here, I want you to type a 1 and put it in the chat. Just put 1 and enter, all right? If you're excited to be here. If you're like, wow, this is really lame, then don't type anything, all right? But if you're excited to be here, I want you to type a 1 and put it in the chat, all right? So if you're excited to be here, I want to see some 1s popping up, all right? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you one more idea that I think you are going to love, all right? So we've talked about the speed and the pace of your voice. We've talked about the volume of your voice. And we've talked about the idea of getting physical, right? Well, now we're going to talk a little bit about shock value, right? You know what that is, right? That's saying something that, you know, people are sitting there looking at you, they're like, I don't know about that, right? In fact, I want you to have kids thinking, like, that's in the Bible? Are you sure? All right. Now, maybe some of you know where I'm going. If you do, I'm actually super impressed. So we're going to stay with the story of Elijah. And there's an element in Elijah's story that I promise kids will, number 1, love just naturally. And number 2, most of them had no idea this was the case. All right. So we're going to fast forward past Elijah and the widow of Zarephath, and we're going to go to Mount Carmel. You guys remember this story? Elijah calls down fire from heaven. You remember this? Well, this story, again, this is a great example. Kids are going to know exactly where you're going. They've heard this story. If they're in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, they know what is coming before you ever start the story. All you got to say is Elijah and Mount Carmel, and half the kids in the class will be like, yep, I can teach this lesson. I got it. Well, I want to show you a little something that will provide a little shock value while you teach this story and drive home the truth of God's Word. Are you ready? So let's look at right in the middle of the story where Elijah begins to taunt the worshippers of Baal. And it says, at noon, Elijah began to taunt them. Shout louder, he said. Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought or busy or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened. Now, some of us know, like, oh, it'd be really funny to pretend that we're sleeping or awakened or that we're deep in thought. But notice one of these words that seems a little bit vague. Busy. Do you know what busy actually refers to? Now, I looked this up in a number of study Bibles. I actually heard this at my good Southern Baptist church. All right, so I just didn't make this up. The Contemporary English Version translates this as maybe he's daydreaming or using the toilet. How many of you that teach any elementary kids don't think this would be a hit? All right? If you read that verse and then you explain to kids, you know what busy means? Elijah's taunting them. He's saying, surely he's a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought or busy. You know what Elijah meant? Oh, or maybe he's taking a bathroom break. All right? This all of a sudden this goes from like Elijah, this Bible character. It's kind of hilarious, you know? He was asking him like, "Oh, is your God on a bathroom break? Is that what the problem is here?" All right? I mean, does anybody not think that that would not go over fantastically well? I mean, you probably have some kids who that's all they would remember is this idea. Okay? So those are a couple ideas for you. Now, I want to cover one more thing, and then we're going to wrap this up. But remember, don't leave early, because at the end of this, that's not going to be terribly interesting. You have to find a way. Are we having connection issues? Looks like we're having connection issues. Let me scroll down here. Hold on one second. Are we having connection issues? Maybe. All right, we good? Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so we're going to infuse our story with emotion and drama. But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, see, Nathan, I'm just not that kind of person. I don't like to act crazy. I don't like to say things that are surprising, or I don't like to be dramatic. I'm just not that kind of person. Well, number one, that's not true. And I'll tell you why. Because there is something or someone in your life that makes you act a little bit crazy. Okay? Whether it's crazy good or crazy bad, there are people in your life that, you know, you're like, oh, I know what you mean. I do kind of act crazy around them. All right? So, and there's two reasons that you have to figure out how to do this. All right? You can't use the excuse, well, I'm just quiet and I don't teach like that. You have to find a way to be who you are, but you have to find a way to be a little more dynamic, because when you're in front of an audience, number one, they feed off your energy. All right? The kids need your energy. Have you ever been while they're talking to their friend and nobody's watching, and they're just like this, and they talk and they just say, okay, and now point number 3, we like to cover this. It's boring. Nobody wants to do it. I mean, just look at me, okay? Let's go full screen here for a second. Do you think that when I talk to friends, I talk in this animated style with lots of inflection and, I mean, come on. This is like amped up 30-40%, right? Because I'm presenting. Even though I'm not physically presenting to people in front of me here in this room, I'm presenting to people digitally all around the world, right? So when I'm presenting, you guys are feeding off my energy. Part of what makes me interesting is my energy. And part of what's going to make your story interesting to kids is your energy. They are going to reflect and they're going to be interested if you give them your energy. So you have to be excited, all right? Let's go back to the PowerPoint. We're almost done. So number 1, they need your energy. Number 2, you don't have to be cuckoo crazy. You know, you don't have to be like whoa, that's weird. You don't have to be odd. You don't have to be crazy to be crazy interesting. All right? The crazy we're talking about here is not, acting a fool, right? You don't have to become somebody you're not, but you have to find a way to be crazy interesting. And using some of these tactics, like you can't tell me that let's go full screen here. You can't tell me that there's no way you can't change the pace of your voice so that kids will be excited when you get to that moment in the story where there's a whole bunch of drama. You can't tell me that you can't change your voice and talk softly and then talk loudly. You can do that. You can't tell me you can't find simple ideas to involve physical activity, all right? I'm thinking of another lesson we did in one of my curriculums. It's David, and it's when Saul's chasing him through the hillside and all the caves. The kids are like moving the entire time. They're marching and stopping and sleeping and getting back up. Or the Apostle Paul, when we talk about his missionary journeys, there's a whole like flip-flop thing, and we're racing from one city to the next, and there's different like crab walk to one city, and then they hop to the next city, all right? Otherwise, Paul's missionary journeys, it's not that interesting of a lesson, right? But you combine some of the cool stories that happen in some of those cities, like, casting out demons out of possessed people, or you find interesting physical ways to make it interesting, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that was a fantastic Sunday, right? You don't have to be crazy, so to speak, to be crazy interesting. You just have to find those tactics, those techniques, those ideas that you can add on to your already fantastic personality that will make you a dynamic Sunday school teacher, all right? And that's what I want for you. So here's what I'm talking about. I have a whole bunch of ideas, all right, that I want you to know about. I have over 100 weeks of lessons that have tons of these ideas. In fact, you'll see Elijah, that top row, that, I think you can maybe see my mouse. You can see right there, that's Elijah. We went through a whole bunch of those ideas today. All right, there's like object lessons. There's all kind of stuff in here. And I want you to be able to have all of this. So here's what I want you to do. Because you're on the webinar, and this is not the bonus, all right? Hang on, we're almost to the free stuff. But listen, I want you to have something because you showed up today. So for a very limited time, here's what I'm going to do. Normally, I charge $29 a month. And $29 a month gives you access to everything. There's over 100 weeks of lessons. These are all written for elementary kids. All their curriculum need, there's lesson scripts. There's object lessons galore. There's activities. There's opening games. A lot of them have skits. There's songs to sing. All right? I need to do a whole nother live training on YouTube because it is a fantastic place to find Sunday school resources. You just have to know how to look, where to look, etc. It's awesome. But I want to make you a special deal. If you need some help finding clever ideas, knowing how to take a story that the kids have already heard, maybe already know, and make it interesting, then I want to help. All right? So for the next few hours, you can get all of my material for $60 for 3 months. All right? Unlimited access for 3 months at a time for $60. And that's locked in as long as you want to stay. So basically what that is that it's 3 months of access for the price of 2. All right? Because 29 times 2 would be 58, right? So it's basically 3 months of access for the price of 2. And there's no difference. You get access to everything. And since you're here, let me let you in a little secret. I'm just about done with a spiritual warfare training. Or not training, sorry, lesson series. It's like I think it's 5 weeks. It's awesome. It's got the shield and the sword, and the kids are like making I think it's a shield or a sword, a shield. 1 week. There's all kind of fun stuff, object lessons. It's fantastic. So that's going to be added to this curriculum. So when you access it, you get everything here, all right, for as long as you need it. And this price, this special price, is going to go away soon. So if you're interested, now's the time to act. So listen. We're almost done. You've made it to the end. Congratulations. I want to give you a special bonus, and here's what it is. I'll give you any lesson you want for free. All right? So I want you to go to my website and I want you to look at all the curriculums. All right, and what I do is I list like the curriculums we just looked at. Go to the top of my site and there's a Better Bible Teachers curriculums or all my curriculums, whatever it says. Click on that, and you'll see not only all the series titles, but you'll see every lesson inside every series. Go through it, find one you want, send me an email. And say, hey, Nathan, can I have lesson 4 from David? Hey, Nathan, can I have lesson 1 from Joseph? Can I have lesson 6 from Daniel? Whatever it is you want, you pick. I'll send it to you free. So this is not like a, hey, here's one generic free lesson. No, you can pick exactly the lesson you want, all right? There's my email address. That comes directly to me. It comes right here to my Apple Mail. You can get anything you want absolutely free. Just send me the name of the lesson and I will email you a Google Doc because I love Google Docs. They're super easy. You can print a PDF from there. You can download from there. You can print from there. Whatever you want. Super simple. All right? So that is my offer to you and I hope you'll take advantage of it. So we've made it to the end of our, almost to the end of our presentation. I want to show you 2 more things, all right? You up for it? First of all, I want to show you, this was exciting to me. So I got a little bit of feedback from a guy in Tuscaloosa, and I want to share it with you. This video is 2 minutes long, or like 1:50, all right? I want you to listen to Jonathan talk about some of the stuff he's using and some of the excitement he's seeing. All right, take a look, and then I want you to know what you think. Ready? Here we go.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Freeman. I'm a children's pastor in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We were looking for a new curriculum last August and came across BetterBibleTeachers.com. It's been a phenomenal curriculum for us because we can make it fit our schedule and it fits our structure. But our biggest need was for college students to be able to lead kids. For us, that meant needing a curriculum that we could just copy and paste to look like our format. Each college student gets to tell the lesson of the week. They also have a section for questions to ask kids for reinforcement. And there's an activity they do in their small group time. One of the greatest things a children's minister can do is connect with parents. Each week there's a section called Words of the Week. We take that part of the curriculum and we copy it, we paste it, we put it on a piece of paper that looks like our formatting, and we give it to parents each week so they can reinforce that lesson throughout the week with their kids. I don't know about your position in your church, but busyness is always a constant. Something's always coming up. So for us, it's great to know that we can go online, click on a curriculum link, and we can download that link, and it's right there either on a phone, or we can take it and print it off for our teachers, or we can just say, hey, here's a link, you go find it yourself. And so for us, it's a great thing to have the online curriculum so that we can have it whenever we need it. One of my favorite things about this curriculum is the lesson time. It puts the lesson in a story as if you were there in the moment. So rather than everybody get your Bible out, which is important later for studying, but when you have it, you can tell a story to kids in a way that they are there in the moment that the Bible story is happening. It's a beautiful thing for us to be able to tell a story and then go back in our small group time and get our Bibles out and look at the story and see how incredibly awesome the Bible is. There are parts.
What'd you think? Pretty cool guy, huh? So if you want to take advantage of my special offer, you can go to betterbibleteachers.com/6043 and you'll see all the information there to fill out to get 3 months of access for the price of 2 months. All right. So I want to know, do you guys have any questions? Any comments on what I talked about today? You're like, oh, that was great, or oh, I already knew that. In fact, I've been doing it for a long time. I want to know, what's going on with you? What are you seeing? What's working for you? You can, if you're on a desktop or if you're on a computer, you can go to the chat and just type in your questions. How am I? I'm good. And a little hungry. I'm enjoying pretzels right now, trying not to eat while I talk, but it's a good time. So I want to know, like, where are you teaching Sunday school? What are you having trouble with? How can I help you? I'm here to help. I'll be here for maybe a couple more minutes. I want to know, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. I'll be glad to answer them. There is a little bit of a delay, so don't hesitate. Fill them in right now, and then once I see them, I will hop on them, let you know, any question you want to ask. I am here, open book, whatever you want to know. If we need to take a look inside some lessons, if you want to ask about my experiences in Sunday school, if you have a burning question about a better Bible teachers you want to know, ask away. All right? Anything you want to know, I am here for you. Also, thanks for hanging out with me today. It's a lot of fun. I love doing training. I love teaching kids. I love teaching in general. I love presenting. So this is fun for me. I enjoy doing this. So I hope you got some benefit from it. It's not very often I get to do a live webinar like this. Usually, obviously in front of kids, doing this, live with faces. So it's interesting when the only thing you're really looking at is your own face in a video. We all know how awkward that can be. But I enjoy hanging out. It's really fun. So a couple questions for you. Number one, where are you? Are you in the States? Are you, in Canada? We have some members of the Better Bible Teachers community from Canada, and I love Canada. Like, I was born in the U.S., I was raised in the U.S., I really have no reason to love Canada as much as I do, but I love Canada, all right? So there it is. But if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in. And then I also want to know, what are you currently teaching? Are you currently, using your own curriculum? You're just kind of like, well, I just decide what I'm going to teach every week, and then, just go for it. Or maybe you're currently using some curriculum. Do you like it? Everybody has a different opinion on what works for them. I would love to know what works for you, because ultimately I'm here to provide stuff for people so it works for them. That's what I love doing. I love when people come back and say, man, I used your curriculum, or I used another curriculum, or whatever, but we found that and it works so well, and our kids are curriculum you use. Information. All right, if you want to contact me, again, if you want a free lesson, go ahead and hit up my email. It's nathan@betterbibleteachers.com, and I will send you any lesson you want for my curriculum for free. All right? If you have any questions, any advice, shoot it that way. I'll be here just for another minute. I think I've had connection issues this whole time, so thanks for hanging with me. I know that's annoying. I have connection issues here at the house I'm still trying to figure out. You would think being in San Diego you wouldn't have those issues, but unfortunately I do right now, so still trying to deal with that. All right? Let me check here one more time, see if we have any. Nope, looks like everybody's pretty quiet today. That's okay. I appreciate you hanging out. Appreciate you spending time with me. I want you to know that I love teaching God's Word. I love that you love teaching God's Word, and that together we can figure out how each of us can become better Bible teachers, right? That's the goal. So contact me anytime you need. I'm here for you, and ultimately I'm here to make your life easier. So if I can help you, don't forget to check out the offer. It's betterbibleteachers.com/6043. You can get 3 months for the price of 2. For just $60, you can access everything you see on that screen. There's over 100+ weeks of lessons, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. All right? Thanks for hanging out. Have a great weekend, and if you're watching a hockey game tonight, go Vegas Golden Knights. All right? Appreciate you guys. See ya.